So I'm supposed to be the next reader, and I gave myself a test for this reading. I was going to write 300 words with a microphone that goes up and down. I was going to write 300 words. I would not use the names Sam, Zachary, the words nephew, died, or for those of you who were here for the last reading, whoosh. And I failed the test. So the next reader is Paul Dyer.
Very graceful.
Gotta follow the baby kill. A petition to HRH to drop an F-bomb for dramatic effect, and permission was denied. So if I happen to mention the word cheesing, I'd like you to substitute accordingly.
It's not close
Can you hear me?
enough.
No.
Hello?
Yeah.
All right. Sally, Bobby, Terry, Joey, Tommy, Michael, Andy, Tony, Joni, and Amy. The Smileys, little people, about 3/4 size. Mrs. Smiley had a shorter gestation period than most. Like a human easy bake oven, she'd pop them out every 4 or 5 months. Smiley kids were like herd animals. You'd see them coming across the backyards of Green Acres. Had to stand your ground, test of will. Cut them, turn them like a border collie, head them back towards their own quarter acre. Home from school one day, and in the mailbox, glossy, outside, the Facebook and YouTube of the 60s, Life magazine. And dead center, in between pictures of Jackie in her leopard skin pillbox hat, and the Rat Pack on the stage of the Sands in Las Vegas. A brand new, shiny Maytag washer and dryer. Spread out over those 2 pages, amongst the piles of freshly laundered sheets and towels. Sally, Bobby, Terry, Joey, Tommy, Michael, Andy, Tony, Joni, and no Amy, for she was still a glimmer in the little man's eyes. I vaulted up the stairs of our split level, and there was Betty, slouched in a chair in the living room, hair in disarray, cigarette burning in the ashtray. Mom, look. I held the pages out for her inspection. Just 5 more and we can be in Life magazine. The normally genteel Betty stood, ripped the magazine from my grasp, hurled it to the floor, pointed toward the kitchen where my younger brothers had pulled everything from the cabinets and were shrieking as they perforated each other with the skinny forks from the fondue set. Did I mention that she was genteel, normally genteel? She flopped back down into her chair and said, "No cheesing way."
All right, Judy Catterton. I'm still wondering why when Mary Beth said you could edit yourself out, that sounded so ominous. She sits side saddle on the edge of the bathtub, leaning over it to adjust the temperature of the water as it flows from the faucet. Her sleeves are rolled up so she can dip her elbow in the water, testing to make certain it is not too hot for her grandson, who sits on the toilet behind her with his pants rolled down to the floor, his shirt off, his hair wet with the sweat of his day playing in her yard. She sits on the side of my bed, on the light purple bedspread she made for me, and moves the large stuffed white teddy bear aside so she can press her lips to my forehead, testing to see if my fever has broken. She stops in the grocery aisle and demonstrates how to test for the ripeness of a pineapple by pulling out one of the pointed green sprigs. She stops to test the sweetness of a nearby grape, pinching one off and popping it into her mouth. She tests my patience with her tiresome advice on how to raise my son and her countless suggested solutions to my problems. She forces my father's mouth open and examines his tongue to test if he has swallowed the pills he takes for his Parkinson's disease. She lies in her bed alone with the Sunday Washington Post, testing her memory with the crossword puzzle, an asthma inhaler on the nightstand within easy reach. We stop at a rest stop in North Carolina where she falls to the floor. A paramedic responds to my 911 call and tests to see if she is still breathing as I watch. Love, it said, withstands the test of time, as if the questions and answers on this test were static, as if there were some yardstick, some thermometer, some math equation by which I could measure her love and mine.
Dennis Garrity, all the way rushing down here from Dover, right? We're glad to have you back.
To Mary Beth's dictum, I managed to get my thing down to 301 words, only because I stutter a lot. Okay, this is a pastiche of the Geistes now and historically, and where attribution is due, I give it. Where it's not, I take it. Isn't that the process? Now that dating kids and child slavery is outlawed, original sin is absolved, and pedophilia is exposed on YouTube, it's been incumbent on us as a civilized society to impose new legitimate ways for kids to suffer the excruciating anguish of a proper childhood. How about a test? Sounds like fun. Plato said, this is a collection of many essays. Plato said, beauty is the splendor of truth. Plato's Gumby said, tests make me want to puke. OBW, BTW, tests are really stupid. For sure. LOL. New Jersey housewives. What can be worse than a test? Tests are bullies, and bullies are certainly tests. Life is a test. What do we need more suffering for? Job. Test is another term for CYA. CYA is another term for cover your ass. And cover your ass is another term for colonoscopy. Nietzsche, in the reciprocal, whatever doesn't kill you makes you weaker. We die a little. Every day we have to take a test. The collateral anxiety imposed by tests. Being nibbled to death by scrawny-headed pigeons. The long arm of tests shortens lives. Tests are destructive. I had an accident on the way to that test. Worse yet, I had an accident during the test. Eliminate tests. Decriminalize failure. Stand up for BIP. Ban Idiot Test International. And don't let the bastards grind you down. James Franco got a D. And guess what subject he achieved this mediocrity? Really. Read the New York Times last Sunday. Tests are lies. Grade inflation. Walking on a curve. Nothing that's important is testable. What's between the lines matters. Of course, what can't be seen can't be tested. The invisible hand of the invisible man that escapes from the mosh pit of testing can't be tested. What is the alternative to testing? No testing. Just so James Franco doesn't get a D. I am not limited by what I know. I am actually beyond testing. Dennis Garrity, age 9.
Secretary of the Rehoboth Beach Writers Guild, Tom Hoyer.
Yay!
You know, I'm usually a glass half full kind of guy, which irritates my wife a good deal. So I had to go back 44 years to find something that to find a test that caused me significant anxiety. This is it. I needed 750 points to pass the physical fitness test to graduate from Army basic training. I'd scored around 400 on the benchmark. Failure meant I'd have to recycle the 8 unspeakable weeks of basic training. How could I improve enough to pick up 350 points? We ran, and God knows we did push-ups by the score. There was no shortage of physical demands and discomfort. Still, we didn't spend much time developing the speed and agility I would need to do the things upon which we'd be tested, and my apprehension grew each day. I was strangely calm on the day of the test. No pain or injury during the test could possibly be worse than the penalty for failing it. The thought of 8 more weeks at Fort Polk was intolerable. The actual event passed in an adrenaline rush. What I remember is sitting alone with my back against a tree, holding the paper with my 775-point score on it. There was a big divot out of my left hand, where the horizontal ladder in my wedding ring had gnawed away the flesh. My fatigue shirt bore the blood from a slash my dog tags made when they turned sideways during the low crawl. My glasses were bent from the impact of the guy on my back when I slipped at the end of the man carry and dropped face down in the grass. None of that mattered. I had passed, and I would move on. I had faced a challenge I truly feared was beyond the reach of my best efforts, and I had succeeded. As I leaned against that tree, I knew there was nothing I couldn't do if I really had to. I smoked a cigarette, and for a brief while, felt as happy as I've ever felt. As long as I'm here, I'm going to tell you an anecdote you don't want to hear about the famous Shakespeare scholar Kitteridge, who apparently was such a fantastic scholar that he started writing and teaching before he got his degree. And many years later, somebody said, well, why don't you just take the exam and get the degree? And he said, well, who would test me? So you actually can get beyond these things.